The SAMHSA Fund for the Resilience in Communities After Stress and Trauma is a program that has been designed to support those communities who are experiencing high degrees of stress and trauma, particularly tied to historical trauma, and looking at communities of color. For Minneapolis, looking very closely at communities of color and Native American communities, but really an initiative that helps us foster greater health and resilience inside of these communities. The city is one of 8 jurisdictions nationally that received this funding.
Ms. Stevens, one of the things that I find somewhat frustrating about work that we do around neighborhoods that are experiencing stress and trauma is that there are, and of course I'm thinking about the neighborhood that I represent in North Minneapolis. There are people who aren't necessarily people of color, but they're lived neighbors in communities that are as much affected by some of the violence that's going on in the community. And so how do we get to those people? I said the same thing with the, trying to think, we got an initiative at the police department that I can't remember the name of. It's the same thing, what do you do about the people who aren't necessarily perhaps the victims, but they're the ones that, get knocked out of their houses at 3 o'clock in the morning because somebody's bashed into the gas meter and, with a stolen car, and or get awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning when they have to go to work the next day because somebody's shooting a gun in their alley. Those people are affected as much as anyone in the neighborhood. And so I just am curious what the thought is about the broader population that lives in the neighborhoods that are affected by violence. And I particularly think, this grant, we were a recipient of the grant because we had this incident. Part of it is because we had this incident in the 4th precinct, but that didn't just affect people of color, it affected everybody that lived in the community. So what's the thought about the rest of the community?
Sure, thank you. So Chair Yang, Council President Johnson, thank you for the question. One of the reasons why we're very intentional in shaping who we're talking about with the grant as geographical is because we understand that it's everybody that lives in those neighborhoods. So we talk about Camden, for instance, as one of our neighborhoods for a recast. It's everybody that lives in Camden. It's not just people of color who live in Camden or Native American populations who may live in Camden. It's everybody that lives there. So the trauma that those communities are facing is, to your point, impacting everybody that's there.